Hi, this is a video about how I weaned my baby off nipple shields because it took forever and I didn't think I'd ever do it. And I searched for videos on YouTube and couldn't really find any. I found one by Frowny Brown. Is it 86? Frowny Brown 86 or 85? That was the only one I found, and that was fantastic, and it gave me so much hope. And what she suggested, that you start the baby off with the nipple shields, so you latch them on with the shields, then midway through the feed you take the shields off, put the baby back on. I tried this and actually didn't really work for us, but at least it was a suggestion, and it was, that was fantastic. That was really, really helpful to get that. What worked for us eventually, in fact, let me give you a background. I tried so hard to breastfeed. It was tricky at the beginning anyway, because I had gestational diabetes, which I ought to make a video about, actually. But, anyway. I had gestational diabetes, and because of that, my son was born with quite low blood sugar. Which doesn't always happen if you have diabetes. It happened in our case. And he had to have formula for the first, I think it was about the first 2 days, maybe the first 3 days. And he had to be cup fed with that, which is great. It's fantastic that they cup fed him rather than bottle fed him, but it still caused us a few issues with feeding. It took a long time to get anywhere, and then by the time I came home and I was feeding him myself, it never took less than 10 minutes to get him latched on, and that's a long time when you've got a hungry baby that's crying and crying and crying. Oh wow, that's a long time. So eventually, about 3 weeks in, so I did try for a while, about 3 weeks in, I was so sore. And the thing is, I'm sure there's something up with his mouth. Not up with his mouth, but he doesn't have a tongue tie, which is the major one. That's the obvious thing that you look for. But there's something going on there, because it was so painful and it was so hard to get him latched on. It was untrue. Anyway, so yeah, it was so sore that I just would have given up. None of the health visitors or the midwives ever mentioned nipple shields, and actually I can see why now, and I'll explain about that in a minute. But they never mentioned them. But my mum, who years ago fed me and had to use nipple shields for a little while, she mentioned them and said, look, go and get some nipple shields. You're in far too much pain. This is silly. Just, sort it out. So my partner went out and got us some shields, came back. I'll show you them. This is the little case they live in. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. God, I got good at this. Here we go. Okay, now these have been washed and washed, so they're not quite as transparent as they were. This is a nipple shield. Yeah? And like I say, they used to be transparent, but they've been washed and washed. And sterilised, Anyway, so I used those, and it was amazing. I could feed and it didn't hurt. It still took a little while to get him latched on. Not as long as it had taken, but it was just better. It was much, much, much better. Anyway, I used those for a little bit too long, and I would say in our case, too long was probably a week, to be honest. And he would not latch on without them. He just couldn't do it, and I was too frightened to try because of the pain, to be honest. So it's kind of my fault too. Well, it's nobody's fault, but I ended up using them. Like I say, he went on them when he was 3 weeks old. He's now coming up to 6 months old, and I've just completed about a month without shields. So that's a long time. That's like, what, 4 months, basically. 4 months with nipple shields, and all of that time, apart from maybe the first month, so for 3 months, I've been trying to get off them and couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it, and I was so frustrated. His weight, he wasn't gaining enough weight. And I thought there were other reasons for this, who knows. My health visitors kept saying to me, oh, you must get off the shields, they're causing problems. And I kept thinking, no, they're fine. They're helping me feed, they must be fine. The minute I came off the shields, his weight has slowly crept up and up and up, and now it's back to a normal level. So it does make a difference. It makes a huge difference, and I hate having to admit that, because the shields were brilliant, but there you are. Anyway, so what helped me wean him off of nipple shields was that I just kept trying. I just kept, not every time, because that would have been awful, But whenever I remembered, I would put him on the boob without the shield, more often than not. In fact, all the time. He just wouldn't take it. So then I put the shield on and I fed him. And it just, we never really seemed to be getting anywhere. I mean, very occasionally I'd be able to do part of a feed without, and that would feel miraculous. It would feel triumphant. And then we'd be back to square one because he wouldn't be able to do it again. And then about 3 or 4 weeks ago, suddenly he just could do it. Just suddenly, he did it all day. Just fed all day without shields. The next day he couldn't, had to be back on the shields. But within about 3 days, I was off the shields completely. So actually, although I'm going to call this video how I weaned my son off nipple shields or how I weaned my baby off nipple shields, actually he kind of weaned himself, to be honest. So if you're struggling and you think, oh my god, I'm never going to get off of shields, you totally will. I thought that. I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to get off them. And now I can feed him without. So yeah, have hope, good luck, and I hope this is helpful to anyone that's watching. Thanks, bye.